So like I said, even though we're not starting lying down, this is going to be, I say that, I hope it's going to be a relaxing class. Hang on. Sam is in the waiting room. Let's let her in. So how I'd like you to start is to come into child pose. So when we're going to come in and out of child pose a bit. So Sam, I'm sorry, it's a terrible shock. We're not starting lying down. Hello. We're starting in child pose. So come into as comfortable, you sort of come into child pose without too much fuss. But if you can have a bit of space between your knees. So your feet together and your knees wider, if that's more comfortable. So I'd just like you to come into child pose, resting your elbows on the ground. So that's quite important. And yeah, it's nice if your forehead can touch the ground. So it might be that you rest your forehead on the back of your hands if it doesn't touch the ground. And just, yeah, so settle down into child pose. And yeah, just see how it feels. And that's it. I'll have a little look at you. And what I'd like you to do here is, yeah, see how it feels. And in particular, gather your attention into your breathing. And I'd like you to be aware of your breath for 3 cycles of breath. So feeling your breath come in, feeling your breath leave you. And also, as you're in child pose, I just notice how comfortable it is. And there's a couple of places in your body that are worth particularly taking your awareness to. So how does your lower back feel? And also, how does it feel in the sort of fold in the front of your hip joints? How comfortable do you feel there? And then we're going to come onto hands and knees, and we're going to do a few cat movements and then come back into child pose and see if we can, make it feel a bit more comfortable. So come onto hands and knees, and what I'd like you to do to start with, once you've settled on hands and knees with your hands under your shoulders, your knees under your hips, is to round your back to the ceiling and dip your spine to the floor in cat pose. So just these simple rounding and dipping movements. And as you do these again, notice how your lower back feels, particularly when you're rounding your back to the ceiling. Notice how it feels when you dip your spine down to the floor. So obviously keep these movements comfortable, don't push anything. Okay, just repeat them a couple more times. And then we're going to add in a little bit of rocking forwards and back. So now you're going to round your back up and then stay rounded to rock your hips back over your heels. And then you're going to come forwards, just back to where you started, dipping your spine down. So really simple, round your back to the ceiling, look back at your feet, stay rounded, rock your hips back over your heels. And then come forwards, letting your spine dip down. And just keep going with that. So rounding up, looking back, rocking back, and then coming forward. And when I say forward, I mean you're just coming back to where you started, letting your spine dip down. So keep on with that a few more times, rounding your back up. And then when your back is rounded, rock your hips back over your heels. And then you come forwards by letting your spine dip down. And it's not a huge dipping down movement. What else could I say? When you round your back to the ceiling, you can really press into your hands a bit. And when you come forwards, dipping your spine down, you might bend your elbows a little, but you don't need to bend them a huge amount. So maybe do that once or twice more. Rounding up. Rocking back, dipping down to come forwards, keeping it comfortable, keeping it easy. You can do that once more if you like, but then I'd like you, the next time you round your back to the ceiling and rock back, so round your back, and rock back all the way into child pose again and stay there. And let your elbows come down onto the ground. And again, just have Yes, I think I've said have 3 breaths in child pose again. So settle back in child pose, elbows on the ground, forehead resting either on the floor or the back of your hands. And have another 3 cycles of breath in child pose. Just noticing how your lower back feels. And again, also, how does it feel in the sort of fold in the front of your hip joints? So one more time, let a breath come in, let a breath leave you, and then come back up onto hands and knees. We're going to do some slightly different movements here this time. So first of all, what I'd like you to do is lengthen each leg out behind you in turns. So lengthen one leg out, tuck your toes under, and just feel the sort of stretch through the back of your leg. And your foot stays on the floor. And then do the same thing on the other side. Okay. Good. And then what we're going to do is this balancing pose that we know as fox pose, where we're taking the opposite arm and leg forwards and back. So you could start by taking one leg back, the foot comes off the floor now, and we take the opposite arm forwards. And we're going to do this first of all, just staying here for a few breaths. You're trying to feel that you're in a long line, yeah? So you need to be looking down at the floor next to your hand that's on the floor, or just level with your fingertips. And you're trying to feel there's a sort of long line from your raised fingertips to your raised back heel. And I always find this one surprisingly challenging. Yes, well done. Good. And then you can come down, you can swap sides, do the same thing. So lengthen the other leg back behind you. When you've lifted your foot off the floor, it should be about the height of your pelvis. Yeah, it doesn't need to be higher. And then reach forwards with the opposite arm. So it's really important you're doing opposite arm and leg, otherwise you're going to make it much harder for yourself. Look down at the floor, just sort of level with your fingertips. Feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you. Maybe another cycle or even 2 of breath here. Good. And then just come back and sit back over your heels for a moment and give your hands a shake out. Now we're going to do a different version of fox. And I think I might just show you first of all, because it's not one we do that often. So we're going to be moving now more dynamically. You're going to be coming into fox as you breathe in. As you exhale, your hand's going to come onto the floor, but you're going to round your back to the ceiling and draw your knee into your chest. I hope you can see that. So I'll show you on this side. The knee draws in. And we're going to do that 5 times with each, the same arm and leg. And then we'll swap over it and do it 5 times on the other side. Okay? So we're sort of moving more dynamically now. So you're going to, from hands and knees, opposite arm and leg, breathing in, lengthening out in fox. Then your hand comes down to the floor. You round your back to the ceiling. You draw your knee into your chest as you breathe out. And then again, breathing in, lengthen out in fox. And then exhaling, rounding your back. Your hand comes onto the floor, but your knee folds into your chest. Breathing in, this is the 3rd time. We'll do it 5 times. Rounding up, knee to your chest. Breathing in long into fox, and then exhaling, rounding the back, gathering the knee in. I think we do it 1 more time. Breathing in, exhaling. And then we'll swap on to the other side. You'll be thrilled to hear. So the same thing on the other side, 5 times. It doesn't matter. You don't have to breathe exactly as I'm telling you to, but that seemed to be what felt most natural to me. So breathing in as I take my arm and leg long, exhaling to round my back to the ceiling and draw my knee up. I know it's really hard to keep count sometimes with these things. So I'm sort of on number 3 on side 2. Breathing in, exhaling to round the back. Breathing in. And I've even lost count now. So it might be 1 more time. And then we're going to both knees on the floor now, both hands on the floor, round your back to the ceiling. And again, rock back into child pose and settle down into child pose. Come to your breathing. So certainly after all that movement, give yourself some time to settle and to feel the movement of 3 breaths through your body. Feeling the breath come in, the breath leaving you. Good. It's very nice. And again, notice how your lower back feels, because I found when I did this earlier, that last movement where the knee drew into the chest and I rounded my back, I felt that really helpful for lengthening out my lower back. So what we're going to do now is come up into standing, and we're just going to come up into standing in any way. So making your way into standing on your mat. And we're going to start by thinking about some more forward bends. I know this light is a bit frustrating here. So yes, so come to stand on your mat with your feet a little distance apart. I'll try and block the light out with my head. Feet a little distance apart. We're going to think about how can we sort of round and soften into a forward bend here in a very sort of soft, relaxed way. So I'm going to come side on. I'm bringing one hand onto my chest, and we're going to start to go forwards by letting our shoulders roll forwards. Feel our chest move back and start to bend the knees. And you're going to come to rest your elbows on your thighs with your knees bent. And let your head go, and just try and feel very rounded through the back of your body. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And you can then from here release your arms all the way to the floor if you like, but keep your knees quite bent. And just see how it feels to be in a forward bend. If it's not good to release your arms, come back to resting your elbows on your thighs. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then you're going to roll back into standing, staying very rounded in your back. So keep your knees bent, keep your shoulders rolling forwards until you come all the way back up. And then we're going to try that again. So just this feeling that we're going forwards and we're just really almost exaggerating this sort of round shouldered movements that we might often try not to do, possibly. So hand on the chest, you're going to roll your shoulders forwards, let your chin come in, let yourself round down, bend your knees, come to rest your elbows on your thighs for a moment, feel very rounded through your spine. You can then start to release lower. So the same thing, if our knees are quite bent, our chest can come close to our thighs. Trying to feel rounded in our spine, letting the head go. Big exhalation. Let a breath come in. And then again, roll back up. But again, with this feeling of staying quite rounded through your back. So the shoulders rolling forwards, the head. That's it, that's nice, very nice. The knees staying quite bent. Good. So we're going to do that one more time. And this time, from being in the forward bend, you could go on into a squat, which is another quite rounded movement. So one last time, hand on your breastbone. So again, we've got this feeling that we let our shoulders roll forwards, our chest softens back, we bend our knees, we really curling up into a little ball. Resting our elbows on our thighs with a little ball. We could then go a bit lower, let our chest come towards our thighs, release our arms to the floor. And then from here, you don't have to do this, but if you like, you can start to bend your knees more so that your bottom comes down into a squat. And if your heels come up, that's fine, yeah? If your heels can stay down, that's great. If you want to put something under your heels, like a cushion or a book, lovely. And I think just in your squat for a moment, look back behind you. So you're really rounded again and let your shoulders roll. Sorry if you can hear some strange noise in the background, it's the dog coughing, which is what he'd stop doing. Okay, let's reverse this movement back into standing. So start to send your heels down and your sit bones up towards the ceiling, but keep your knees bent. And then again, staying rounded. Rolling up into the standing, knees stay a little bit bent until we're all the way up in standing. Good. That's nice. So come to settle in standing. We're going to do a couple of things upright now. So feet a little distance apart. Just let your arms hang. And what I'd like you to do now is close your eyes and start to rock your weight side to side. So you're letting your weight rock over one leg and foot and then the other. And you're just seeing, that's it. As you're doing this, we're going to come and stand on one foot in a moment. So is there one foot that you feel a bit more drawn to standing on? We're obviously going to stand on both of them. You can choose, choose the easier one to start with. It's always a good idea. So now you're going to make the choice about which foot you're going to stand on. You're going to open your eyes. You're going to bring your weight onto your standing foot. And what we're going to do with the other leg is we're going to try to fold our knee in towards our chest. It doesn't have to be all the way in there, but I want you to try and support your leg with your arm, ideally with both arms, yeah? So it might be with the knee folded into your chest like child pose, or your knee might be a bit further away from your chest, and you're trying to support it with your arms, good. And I really appreciate this is not an easy thing to do, yeah? But we're trying to feel the knee folded into the chest, good, very nice. That's lovely, okay? Have another breath or two there. It's fine if you topple out, don't worry. We're going to come down in a moment and try the same thing on the other side. So come down, have a little shake out. Block that light out again. And then come back down, shift your weight onto your other foot, and then folding the other knee in towards your chest. And it really doesn't matter how high it comes, but the most important thing is to try and really support your leg wherever it is with your arms. And then this just means the muscles, the hip flexors in the front of the leg can relax a bit because they can get quite sort of tight and sore. Good. Yes, and you can let your foot be floppy. So we're just trying to balance here. Let the shoulders drop. Very nice. Well done. Well done. So even though the knee's folded in towards us, we're not really rounding forwards in the upper body. We're just trying to keep our shoulders soft and relaxed. We're not pushing them back, but we're also trying not to round forwards too much. Come down, have a little shake out. I'm just going to see if I dim that light a bit. It's too dark. Okay, we're going to come back to side one now, and you're going to go a little bit further. So you could watch me for a moment. We're going to come back to where we were. And then what I want you to do, if I go side on, is play around with straightening out that leg. So you folded the knee in towards you, and then it's still holding around the back of your thigh. And I know this is one we don't do very often because it is rather challenging. Yeah. So what's it like to straighten the leg out? And you might not straighten it completely, yeah? So unless you've got really quite long hamstrings, your knee's probably going to stay bent, but it might just straighten a little bit more. Something that often happens with this is as we straighten our leg, we start to lean back. So let's try to avoid that. Yes, well done. Well done. We'll move on to the other leg in a moment. And good. Well done. Come down and have a little shake out. And let's try the other leg. So obviously, and again, another thing you could do would be to stand by a wall. So if the balance is proving challenging, you could always stand by a wall and then hold your leg with one arm. Yeah, that makes it a little bit easier. So let's try side two. So we're folding the knee in towards us. We're supporting the knee with the leg bent. And then we can just, what happens? What happens if we try to straighten that leg? Good. Well done. Very nice. Fantastic. And if, like me, your knee sounds a bit sort of crunchy and grumbly, Emma, I imagine yours might be doing that. So good. Come down, have a little bit of a shake out, and just come back into another forward bend. So feet a little distance apart. We could have our hands back on our breastbone. We could be letting our shoulders roll in. We can just be coming down to this sort of rounded place. And then all the way down into a forward bend, and even down into a squat if you're feeling keen on squatting this evening. That feels nice on your lower back. And just a couple of breaths in your forward bend. Good. And then sinking into your heels, rolling up into standing. That's nice, good. So roll back up again, staying floppy. And we're going to do a little bit more forward bending, but with our feet in a slightly different position. So from here, you've still got your feet a little distance apart. From here, you're going to step one of your feet forwards on the floor. So just like a sort of walking pace. So you don't want a teeny tiny little step. You don't want a massive step. You just want something sensible, sort of in the middle. And then do a little bit of rocking your weight forwards and back. So we come onto the heel of the front foot, the ball of the back foot, shifting our weight forwards and back. And what we're going to do here is actually settle. Settle down through both feet and bend the front knee. So we're going to come into a forward bend in this position. And again, we're going to think about this coming halfway. So we're going to come to lean our forearms onto our bent front leg. Let our head, let our shoulders round forwards. And then from here, you can go lower. You can come a bit lower down, so your front knee's bent, your back leg straight, you let your head go, you let your arms go, your chest comes closer to your thigh in your front leg. That's it. Try and be really sort of soft and floppy with the arms and the head. And have a couple of breaths there, just sort of, yes, giving your upper body down to the floor, down to gravity. Let a breath come in, and as you exhale, can you sink down into your feet and come back up without wobbling over? Yeah. So this is a little bit of a balance. Good. Okay. And then step back, both feet side by side, and step the other foot forwards a bit. And it seems a bit dark now. I've turned that light down. Anyway, I was going to say before we know it, it's going to be light evenings, but I think might take a little while. So you step the other foot forwards. That's it. As some of you are doing, just do the bit of that rocking forwards and back. Make sure at this position point, both your feet are facing forwards. And this is just such a good principle to have, because it's like if we're running or we're cycling or we're doing any of these walking, other things apart from yoga, it's just more helpful for our feet to be facing the way we're going rather than somewhere else. And then from here, your front knee is going to bend, your back leg's going to stay straight. You're going to bring yourself rounding forwards onto your front leg thigh. You can have a breath or two resting there, you can stay there, and you can also then go lower. So release your arms to the ground, let your chest come close to your thigh and that front leg, let your head go. Notice how this feels through the back of your legs and your lower back. There's quite a big stretch through the back of the body. The back of the neck can release if we let the head go. Big exhalations. And then again, on an exhalation, come back out, sinking down into your feet, coming up into standing. And just have a little shake out while I show you what you're going to do next, because you're going to go a little bit further with this. So you're going to come back exactly where we were. And then from here, you're going to start bending both knees. So you come down into this sort of sprint type position. And then from here, we'll reverse the movement back into the forward bend. Back up again. So it's a bit like going down into a squat, but we've got one foot stepped forwards. So you've got your other foot stepped forwards now. So we're back to side one, first foot stepped forwards. Make sure you've got your sideways distance, yeah? So you're not feeling that you're on a tightrope. Back leg straight to start with, front knee bent. Folding over your front leg. So your forearms can rest on your front leg. You can then fold down lower, bringing your chest close to your front thigh, letting your head go. Might be at this point that your fingertips touch the ground possibly, which would be helpful. And then you're going to start to bend your back knee. Let your back heel come off the ground. See if you can bring your back knee all the way down onto the ground into this sort of sprint type position. Yeah, it's quite a big bend for the toes. So if the knee has to stay off the floor, that's fine. Good. And then reverse the movement. So as you exhale, start to straighten that back leg. You can keep your front knee bent. You can keep your chest close to your thigh. You can let your head go. Let a breath come in as you exhale down into your feet, all the way back up into standing. All back down again, yes. All the way back up into standing. And we'll do that on the other side. So swap your legs, swap your legs over so you've got the other foot forwards, bending your front knee. Yeah. Little bit of distance, remember, it's really important. We've got this sideways distance, otherwise we're going to feel terribly wobbly. Bending the front knee, back leg straight to start with. Come to rest your elbows on your front thigh. And then fold lower, chest coming onto your front thigh. Let the head go. Starting to bend your back knee. So you can come all the way down into that little sort of sprint type position. See how it feels on this side. It may be that the knee comes down, it may be it doesn't. Let a breath come in and then reverse the movement. Straightening the back leg, chest comes onto your thigh. Let your head go. Let a breath come in, all the way back up into standing. Good. Well done. Have a little shake out. And I think it's one last time. No, we might do it again. We're going to just come down into a forward bend again, where our feet are side by side. So, and see how that feels. So again, we can have the chest, hand on the chest, let the shoulders roll forwards, bend the knees. Maybe our elbows come onto our thighs, or we can release all the way down into a forward bend. And you could also carry on going into a squat if you like. So bending your knees. Fine if the heels come up, that's it. So all of this work is so good for the ankles and the knees and the feet. Yes, well done. All the way into your squat. Fine if the heels come up. And then reverse the movement. Send the heels down, send the sit bones up to the ceiling. Keep your knees bent, roll up into standing, stay rounded until you arrive all the way back up. Good. And then have a little shake out at that point. Now, I think we're going to do something. I think we did this 2 weeks ago. This breath of joy is something I was doing to cheer us up in January. So this, if you weren't there then, don't worry, because I'll talk you through it. But let's think about doing it as a relaxing way as possible. We're going to do this 5 times. I'm going to show you first of all. We have 3 arm movements that happen on a single inhalation. We breathe in, the arms come up in front of us. We breathe in, you can do it with me if you like, the arms come wide. We breathe in, we take the arms up. And then we exhale and flop forwards. Now, what I forgot to say at the beginning was we have our feet a bit wider apart. So our feet are, a bit wider than we'd normally have them, and our knees are a bit bent. So I'm sort of letting my tailbone drop. It's a bit more like a Tai Chi stance, and it just means we feel really grounded, I think, and secure below the waist. So let's try it again. So let's breathe in, take the arms up in front of us. Carry on breathing in, bring the arms wide. Carry on breathing in, bring the arms up, and then down in front of you. So if you run out of in-breath, come back up into standing. Just take an extra breath. So breathing in, breathing in, breathing in, breathing out. Back into standing. Breathing in, breathing in, breathing in. Back into standing. We'll do this 2 more times. Just keep it as relaxed as possible. Breathing in, breathing in, breathing in. This last time you could stay for an extra breath or 2 in the forward bend. So breathing in, breathing in, breathing in. just flopping forwards for a breath or two. So, yes, if some of you were here a couple of weeks ago, I was saying this breath of joy was something I've roll back into standing when you're ready, was something I've been doing just to beat the January lockdown blues. Now, we're going to come into some one-legged dog poses, going down from a forward bend, but I think I might just show you because there's a little sequence I'd like you to do. So just watch for a moment. We're going to come into a forward bend. We're going to come into dog pose. And then there's three things you're going to do, and you do them on each leg, and then you do the next thing. So the first thing is just folding each knee into your chest to see how that feels. Okay, so that's number one. You do that on each side. Number two, you fold your knee into your chest, and then you start to send the knee back behind you and even roll your pelvis. Yeah. So again, we bend the knee to the chest, but then we send the knee back. And then we roll the pelvis. That's number two. Number three, again, we bend the knee into the chest, we send the knee back, but this time we can lengthen out the top leg. And then we do the same on the other side. Okay, so I'll talk you into it, but I just thought if you can see this little sequence. So come to the backs of your mats. Feet a little distance apart. And we'll, one last time, I do promise, we'll roll down into a forward bend. So it could be hand on your chest, just shoulders rolling in. Think about this really rounded, soft forward bend. All the way down, have a breath or two there. And then from your forward bend, you're going to walk your hands forwards into dog pose. So walk your hands forwards on your mat until it feels like a good length dog pose for you. Good. And then remember the first thing you were doing was just on each side, you were going to fold your knee one at a time into your chest. You can only take 1 foot off the floor. So how does it feel to fold your knee into your chest? And try that on both sides. Keep your foot as relaxed as possible. I think that helps. And then fold your knee into your chest. And then you start to send your knee back away from you. Keep the knee bent, keep the foot relaxed, but you can roll your pelvis if you like, so the knee comes more up towards the ceiling. And try the same on the other side, folding, picking the foot up, folding the knee into your chest, and then sending the knee back behind you, turning the knee out to the side. Good, and then the third time, it's knee into the chest, and then sending the knee back behind you, turning the knee out to the side, and then finally lengthening out the leg. Good, so you end up with a long leg, and that's beautiful, really sending your heel away from you, fantastic. Yes, if you're not sure what on earth I'm talking about, do look at me, but you all look like you know what you're doing. And do that on both sides, so you fold your knee into your chest, you send your knee back and out, and then finally you lengthen out that leg. And then finally you fold down into child pose. Very nice. Good. So how does it feel to be back in child pose? And we're going to come back into dog pose in a moment, and there'll be another chance to do those one-leg dogs if you like. So just come into child pose for 3 cycles of breath. Rest your elbows on the ground. Feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you. And then you've got a little bit of a choice. We're going to come back into dog pose. You could either do a really sort of nice quiet dog pose, or you could revisit those one-legged dog poses again. So it's really up to you. And what it might be quite good is to come into dog and actually just see what you feel like doing once you're in dog pose. Because sometimes we don't know until we get somewhere. So if you come into your dog pose from the ground, and just give yourself a couple of breaths there and just sort of see, how does dog pose feel? If it feels really lovely and you just want to stay in dog pose with 2 feet on the ground, you can do. But you could try those ones, folding the knee into the chest. So we can go back through the little sequence. You fold each knee into your chest, keep your foot floppy and relaxed. fold your knee into your chest and then send the knee back behind you and out to the side. Do the same on the other side. So folding the knee into your chest, keep your foot floppy. Send the knee back behind you and out to the side. And then the final one was knee folded in towards you, knee back behind you, knee out to the side, and then lengthen out that top leg, reach into your heel, up and back. Very nice, beautiful. Yes. And when you come down, when you come down, when you've done both sides, when you come down this time, just sit quietly in kneeling. And I think all of you are okay. Are you okay kneeling? Sitting on your heels. If you're not happy in kneeling like this, be up in kneeling like this. But otherwise, yeah, sit here in kneeling. Just gather your attention into your breathing and have 3 cycles of breath here. So you could rest the backs of your hands on your thighs. Close your eyes. Gather your attention to your breath and feel 3 cycles of breath move through you. Feel the breath come in. Feel the breath leave you. And then open your eyes. And if you need to stretch out your legs, come onto hands and knees for a moment. But if you're okay in kneeling, just do a little bit of a kneeling twist. So you can either come straight into this kneeling twist, or if you need to stretch your legs out, you can do this and then come back into kneeling. So we're just doing a very simple twist where we turn one direction. So the back fingers can be on the floor or the back of your pelvis, the front hand on the opposite thigh, keeping the shoulders soft. Having a couple of breaths here. And then turning the other way. That's it, good. And again, just try to let the shoulders soften and drop. That's nice. And we're going to do some more rounding movements for the body. But first of all, we're going to do something different and just let ourselves lengthen out through the front of the body. So what I would actually like you to do is to come lie on your belly. And I mean, I tend to like to rest the side of my head on my forehead on my hands. You don't have to. So just make yourself as comfortable as possible on your belly. And the first thing you're going to do is just give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. We're not doing that much down here. We're just having a little lie down. And in lying here, we're letting the front of the body open out a bit. So just see how it feels to be lying on your belly. You can give your pelvis a wiggle, and then have maybe a couple of quiet breaths. How does it feel to let the breath come in, to let the breath leave you? And then you can also do the variation I know some of you like, where you bend your knees and you take the soles of your feet towards the ceiling. So you've bent your knees, you've taken the soles of your feet towards the ceiling, and then you let your feet tilt to the right and to the left. You don't have to do this one, and if you do it and you don't like it, then don't do it. But it can be quite a relaxing thing to do. Good. So just a couple more times. And then let your legs come down onto the floor and just have another breath or two lying on your belly. Feeling your breath come in, feeling your breath leave you. Feeling the front of your body opening out just through lying there. I'm just thinking how pleasant that is. I could have carried on lying there. But we are going to come back up to, so you can, from your being on your belly, you're going to come into this sort of sitting position towards the front of your mat. And some of you might guess where we're going to, but we've got a few variations. So I've got my feet, again, a little distance apart. And we're thinking to start with, again, about our back rounding, yeah? So it could be that you lean forwards onto your chest, onto your thighs. And what we're going to start by doing is moving a little bit here. We're going to be sliding our hands from our feet to our knees and leaning back. And as we do this, just looking down at our belly, so we stay rounded in our back. And then go back, so the hands slide back to the feet. And all the time we're looking down at the floor or our belly. So we stay rounded through the back of our body. So all these other things we've been doing today, which are about rounding through the body, we're carrying on with that. And just repeat this maybe 2 or 3 more times, looking down, sliding your hands from your feet to your knees and leaning back a little bit. And then we're going to go a little bit further with this. So we're going to slide our hands from our feet to our knees and just hold around the back of our knees and then let ourselves rock down and then look forwards to come back up. Yeah, so we're going to rock down, looking at our belly, and then look forwards to come back up. And we're just trying to get this sort of rolling, rounded feeling through the back of ourselves. And it might not feel the smoothest movement. Let's do a few more. Going down, coming back up. Okay, the next time you come back up, stay up. Lengthen your legs out for a moment and lean back on your arms and give your legs a little roll. And then we're going to do something slightly different. This is just a little bit, it's a little bit of fun. Just we're going to do something slightly different for a moment. We're coming back into another balance. And this time, actually, we're not trying to round our back. We're trying to keep our back quite straight. And can we hold around the back of our legs and bring our feet off the floor? So we're trying to balance on our sit bones, yeah? Now, if you round your back in this one, what's going to happen? Yes, you're going to fall back. So we're trying not to do that. We're trying to keep our back fairly straight. Good. And then if we can balance here, what about, a bit like when we were standing, what about straightening the leg? But what you don't want to do is, again, if you straighten your legs a lot, yeah, you're going to roll back. So you're trying to keep your chest close to your thighs so your spine stays straight. So it might be that you could, you might to straighten both legs. Very nice. Keeping the thighs as close to the chest as possible. It can get a bit sort of hang on a bit, can't it, through the front of the hip flexors here. Lean back onto your arms for a moment and give your legs another wiggle. I'm just going to give you one more possibility you could try with this, and you may or may not like it. So the other variation you can try with this, and there's various ways, is to somehow, and it might be being in a cobbler pose, catch your toes or catch your hands over your toes and then your legs up like this. So if I go side on, I'm reaching between my knees. I'm catching my hands over the top of my feet. Doesn't really matter how you catch your feet. Yes, and I can see a little bit of rolling backwards here. Well done. Well done. So remember in this one, if you straighten your legs a lot and your thighs move away from your chest, that's when you're going to roll back. You could even be holding your ankles. So if it's hard to catch your feet, you could hold your ankles, yeah? Or you could hold your heels. These are all possibilities. Okay, good. But they are just a little bit of fun. So lean back onto your arms. Give your legs a little bit of a roll. Well done. And we're going to come back to our back being rounded now. So I want you to come back to sliding to here, holding around this one, coming back up again. So come back to this one and just see how it feels. So now you do want to roll back, yeah? And so you're looking down at your belly You're wanting, you're not trying. Well, we still are balancing, aren't we? As we go back, we're looking at our belly, we're balancing on the back of our body. So it is a sort of balance, but we're letting our back round out now. And then as you all know, we can do the delightful one where we then straighten our legs. And it becomes much more about our abdominals. Just a little bit of, a little bit of hard work. You will be getting your chance to lie down when we're getting there. So I thought we would maybe do this 3 times. So we're going to be rolling back, looking at the belly, picking the feet up. And then what happens if we lengthen the legs out? Can we be in this place of balance, soft arms, relaxed shoulders and jaw coming back up? So one of the tricks with this, and this is quite tricky, is not to roll back too far. Yeah, so sometimes you have to maybe pick your feet up sooner than you think. Yeah, I think I've lost count. I think that might have been 3. So you're very justified to be lying down now. If you'd like to do one more and then lie down, you can do. So rolling back, picking your legs up, coming into your little balance, feel your abdominals working. And I would just like you to, when you arrive on your back, just to sort of collapse there and have a few quiet breaths. Well done. We are going to move a bit on our backs, but first of all, just do whatever you feel you'd like to do. So a couple of things I would say, yeah, that's nice. Nice with the legs. Yeah, so have another minute or so just doing whatever you feel you want to do on your back. And if it's just lying there, that's absolutely fine. Good. So a couple of things I would probably do, what I would suggest, one would be to let your head roll from side to side. That's it, just easing your head to the right and to the left. Because in that last one, that boat pose, we're having to hold our head up. The muscles in the front of the neck are working quite hard. So if we come to easing our head to the right and to the left, then that can feel quite nice for the neck. And then the other thing, maybe if you've let your head roll to the right and to the left, find a comfortable place to settle the back of your head on the floor. And then I would say it's really nice to bring your hands onto the front of your body, which some of you have done already. And the belly can now be soft. The abdominals don't need to work when you're lying down. So you can really feel the front of your body responding to your breathing. So feel the belly, the ribs rising as you breathe in, softening back as you exhale. And just at this point, as we've done through some other points in the class, I'd like you to feel 3 cycles of breath moving through you before we then do a little bit more movement. So with your hands on the belly, on your ribs, on the front of your body somewhere, feeling 3 cycles of breath. The breath comes in, the breath leaves you. And when you've had your 3 cycles of breath, then what I'd like you to do here is to fold your knees into your chest and hold around the top of your knees. And so when we come to this, it's a bit like we're doing child pose on our back. We've done lots of these folding movements today. So you can hold around your knees, you can do a little bit of rocking from side to side if you like, just sort of rocking across the back of your pelvis. That can feel really good. And you can also just have a few quiet breaths holding around the top of your knees.
Lovely. And then what I'd like you to do, let's see, I think I'll say lefts and rights now because I think it might help. So I'd like you to keep your right knee folded into your chest and keep holding around your right knee and lengthen your left leg out on the floor. So this is a really nice place to be where we're folded in on one side and the other leg is long. So we can let the left leg, so we've got the right knee folded into the chest, the left leg is long. We can let the left leg be nice and heavy and relaxed on the floor. And then we're going to move into a twist from here. And actually, Kayla, I was thinking of you because we were talking about ages ago, we were talking about different sorts of twists. I just think this might have been before the first lockdown. So we're going to do this twist where, so you've got your right knee folded in towards you. You're going to keep your left hand on your right knee and take your right arm out onto the floor beside you at shoulder height. So we're supporting the right knee with the opposite arm and opposite hand. So your right shoulder's on the floor, your right arm's on the floor. As you exhale, you're going to start to rock your right knee over to the left. So you're letting the back of your pelvis come away from the floor as your right knee rocks over towards the left side of your body. If you're not sure, of course, look at me. Now, at some point, your right shoulder will want to come off the floor, so don't let it. Keep your right shoulder on the floor, and then you can support your right knee with your left hand. So maybe your left elbow comes onto the floor, and you make a little shelf with your arm. So your hand is supporting your knee, your elbow's on the floor. Or it might be your knee can drop down a little bit more. And we have a few breaths here in this twist, and I'll just come and, that's it, have a look at you. That's very nice. Good. Now, so you may like to, I was just looking at you, seeing that, yeah, there is that variation where you could, that top leg, that right leg, you could straighten that leg out and even catch your big toe, possibly. You don't, yes, you could, if you wanted to try that variation, but keep the leg a bit lower down, Maria. So if you're straightening that top leg, yes, that's it. It's sort of staying parallel with the floor rather than going up to the ceiling. Good. Okay, yes, and that's very nice. Have a few breaths in this twist, but that's good, Stuart. Come back to the center whenever you've had enough. You can come back to the center. You could lengthen both legs out on the floor for a moment and just lie with both legs long, and then we'll do the other side. So let both legs lengthen out and then fold both knees into your chest again. So both knees folding towards you. So we come back to that nice place. As I've said, it's a bit like child pose on our backs, our knees folded in towards us. You can rock a little bit from side to side. And then this time you're going to keep your left knee folded in towards you and lengthen your right leg out on the floor. Once that right leg is long on the ground, just you could let it roll a little bit. You can just try and let it go. Be heavy, relaxed. Keep supporting your left knee with your right hand. And your left arm is going to come rest on the floor at shoulder height or wherever it fits in your room. And then keeping your left shoulder on the floor, start to rock your left knee over to the right. The back of your pelvis comes away from the floor, but you keep that left shoulder down. Good, so you're coming into this twist. For some reason, this twist is sometimes known as crocodile. I'm not sure if that's particularly helpful. Good. And then again, if you like, you can play around with straightening out that top leg. That's it. But as you do so, that's it. You want to have the, yeah, you can rest the leg on the counter like that, Maria. You could do that. You're trying to keep the sort of leg reasonably low to the ground. That's it. Nice. Catching your big toe. Good. And of course, whenever you've had enough time in this twist, you can roll back onto your back and lengthen both legs out on the floor again. Good. Just lengthen your legs out, give them a little roll. We're going to do one last movement, and this is sort of a very simple some of you know apanasana, we combine movement and breath. And again, this is the sort of folding in movement. You're going to fold your knees into your chest. And this time bring your hands onto your knees with your fingers pointing towards your toes. And then very simply here, as we breathe in, we move our knees away from our chest and our arms straighten. And as we exhale, we fold our knees into our chest. And you want to really slow down the movement, slow down the breathing. We do it 6 times, breathing in, the knees move away. Exhaling, the knees fold into the chest as the breath leaves us and we empty, closing, breathing in. Exhaling, make sure your feet are relaxed. 3 more times, breathing in as the knees move away from you. Exhaling as you fold your knees in towards your chest. Very nice. That's it. Keep your hands on your knees at all times. So don't let your hands slide off your knees, Hannah. That's it. So if you get to the point where your hands are going to slide off your knees, don't go any further. Focus more on the sort of folding of the knees into the chest as you empty with the exhalation. So it's less about how far the knees go away from you and more about how much you can empty and let the knees fold in towards you. I think we've probably done this 6 times. And then when you've done that 6 times, maybe finish by taking your legs up to the ceiling, giving them a shake out, lengthen your legs out. You can add your arms in as well, give them a good shake out. And then we will just lie down for a couple of minutes, lying quietly for relaxation. So if you want to put on a blanket, socks, jumper, turn your lights down slightly, might be nice. Yeah. So it's just this chance, and I think it's, I always say this, it's probably the hardest thing to do at home on our own is to do nothing. So that's what we're going to do for these last 2 or 3 minutes, is to lie down on your mat, being as warm and relaxed as possible. So your legs can be long or your knees can be bent. And you could always put your lower legs up on a sofa or a chair or a bed, the benefits of being at home. That's more comfortable. You could start by coming back to feeling the weight of your head on the floor and letting your head roll to the right and to the left. So thinking about easing out the neck. And as the head rolls to the right and to the left, let your shoulders rest heavily, softly on the ground, heavily and softly at the same time. So from rolling your head, find a comfortable place to settle the back of your head on the ground. Your arms can be resting by your sides, or again, you can have your hands resting on the front of your body. That's quite helpful to bring your attention to your breathing. And as we've done throughout this class, you can gather your attention into your breath and just see how it feels to focus on your breathing, the sort of narrow, concentrated focus on your breathing for 3 cycles of breath. So feeling the in-breath coming in, filling you. Feeling the out-breath emptying you. And when you've focused in on your breathing for 3 cycles of breath, then just let your awareness become a bit more expansive. See if you can sense out through the whole of your body, back of the head on the ground, the back of the shoulders on the ground. Noticing the elbows on the ground. Let your awareness travel into your hands and your fingers. Down to your pelvis, down through the legs to the heels and the toes. Maybe you can feel the air on your skin, the bare skin particularly. Maybe you're aware beyond your body of sounds or the presence of other people or animals, both in the room or elsewhere in your home. And within ourselves too, just this constant flow of sensation, feeling, thoughts, images. I'm going to ring the singing bowl 3 times. So just stay with this sort of expansive sense of awareness, and you can let the sounds of the bowl come into your world. Thank you, everyone. You can start to move. Well, there's no rush. You can carry on lying under your blankets, but you can also start to move when you're ready.